Have you ever dreamed of someone who died and felt like they were truly there? Not a memory, not imagination, but something real, something watching, something calling. They don't knock, they appear, at the edge of your bed, in a silent room, sometimes smiling, sometimes crying, sometimes saying nothing, but leaving you shaken for days. Carl Jung believed that these dreams are not accidents. The dead return not to haunt us, but to awaken us. In Jungian psychology, the soul speaks in symbols, and nothing is more symbolic, more sacred than a visit from the ones who have crossed over. They come when we're ready, to show us what we've forgotten, to guide us toward a truth we've been too afraid to see. So if you've dreamed of the dead, this message is for you, and it began long before you pressed play. So tonight we follow that whisper into the dark to find what the dream was really trying to tell you, to understand what your soul has been waiting to say. Why do the dead appear in our dreams? You close your eyes and they appear, not like memories, but as if they've returned. You see their face, you feel their presence, and when you wake up, it lingers. Most people shrug it off, it's just a dream. But Carl Jung never believed in just dreams. To him, every dream is a message, a symbolic transmission from the unconscious, often more truthful than waking life. So why do the dead visit us? Sometimes they don't speak. Sometimes they cry. Sometimes they smile in that eerie way that feels both comforting and unbearable. But almost always, they carry something we've avoided. Maybe it's grief we never fully felt. Maybe it's guilt. Maybe it's a question we never asked and never got to answer. But here's the twist. In Jungian psychology, the dead often don't represent people at all. They represent parts of ourselves we've lost. That grandfather who appears at the edge of your bed. He may symbolize the wisdom you abandoned to stay normal. That best friend who died too soon. She may carry the creative fire you buried to fit in. The stranger you don't recognize, but who feels familiar. He may be your shadow, the unlived life inside you, finally knocking. The dead in our dreams don't just come from the grave, they come from the deep unconscious, from the places inside us that we silenced to survive. And maybe the scariest part isn't that the dead are speaking to us, it's that we've been deaf to our own soul for so long, we needed the dead to wake us. So ask yourself this, what part of you had to die for the version of you who lives today to survive? And what would happen if that part wanted to come back? What the dead really represent in dreams. When the dead show up in dreams, most people ask, why them? Why now? But Jung would tell us the better question is, what do they symbolize? Because the dead in dreams are rarely just the dead. In Jungian psychology, the unconscious uses symbols to bypass your ego, and nothing gets your attention like someone you thought was gone. But here's the truth. Most of the time, the people who appear in your dreams, especially the dead, aren't who you think they are. They're archetypes. They're masks worn by deeper forces. They might be carrying grief, yes, but they might also carry power, insight, or the part of you that you left behind to survive. That stern grandfather? He might not be a person, but the wise old man archetype urging you to reconnect with your inner authority. That smiling aunt who passed away years ago? She may embody the great mother, offering comfort in a time when your soul feels lost. The silent stranger who looks like your father, but somehow isn't, could be your shadow. The part of you you've spent your whole life denying. Here's the twist. The dead in your dreams may not be trying to say goodbye. They may be trying to say, you left me behind, and you need me back. Jung believed the psyche is always striving for wholeness, and the figures in our dreams, even the haunting ones, are often invitations to reintegrate what we've exiled. So ask yourself this, who is returning to you in your dreams, and what part of your soul might they be carrying with them? The psyche and death, Jung's spiritual layer. To dream of the dead is not simply to remember them, it is to touch the boundary between this world and something far older. Carl Jung didn't believe dreams were confined to memory or fantasy. He believed they were messages from the unconscious, and sometimes from the soul itself. In Jung's view, death in dreams rarely means physical death. It means transformation. It means something in your psyche is dying, and something else is trying to be born. The ego hates this, because ego wants control, certainty, familiarity. But the dream doesn't serve the ego, it serves the self, the deeper, wiser force within you that is always moving toward wholeness. So when a dead loved one appears, Jung would ask, what part of you is ready to change, and what must die for that to happen? Sometimes death in a dream means letting go of an identity, a belief, a role you no longer need to play. Other times, it means confronting something you've avoided, a shadow, a fear, a memory that has shaped your life from the dark. Here's the twist. The dead don't just show you who they were, they show you what you've become since they left. They mirror the parts of you that formed in their absence, and sometimes those parts are the ones you're now being asked to release. You may think the dream is about them, but often it's about you, about what you buried, and about what your soul is now ready to unearth. So ask yourself, if death in dreams signals rebirth, what version of you is being prepared to rise? When the dead speak messages from the soul. What if the dead don't just visit your dreams, but speak? Not with words, but through silence, gesture, presence. A glance that says, I see you. A touch that feels like memory and mystery wrapped in one. Carl Jung believed that when the unconscious needs your attention, it doesn't whisper. It sends a symbol too powerful to ignore, and sometimes it wears the face of the dead. Not to scare you, but to wake you. Jung had his own dreams of the dead. He wrote of being visited by ancient figures, by wise men, old friends, archetypal elders. They came in silence. They came in fire. They came when he stood at a psychic threshold between ego and self. In one dream, he met Philemon, an old bearded figure who became Jung's inner teacher, a spirit guide who carried wisdom Jung hadn't yet reached in waking life. Philemon wasn't real in the material sense, but to Jung, he was more real than most people, because he represented something eternal, the part of the soul that remembers what the ego forgets. Here's the twist. When the dead appear in dreams, they often don't come to say goodbye. They come to deliver what was never said, to return the lost message, to carry truths that were buried with them. Maybe a parent you lost too young, maybe a friend whose death broke something open in you, maybe an ancestor you never met, but whose pain echoes in your life. The dream isn't fantasy, it's the soul remembering itself. And sometimes the only way to speak truth is to let the dead carry it. So ask yourself, if someone you lost appeared in your dream tonight, what truth might they be asking you to remember? What to do when the dead visit you in a dream? When someone you've lost shows up in a dream, don't rush to explain it. Don't dismiss it, and don't run from it. Carl Jung didn't believe dreams were random images. He believed they were sacred encounters, fragments of psyche and soul woven into symbolic truth. So when the dead visit, pause, not in fear, but in reverence. Because the question isn't, was it real? The question is, what part of me needed to see them? Maybe the dead come back not to be remembered, but to remind you of who you were before the world asked you to forget. To remind you of what matters before life buried it under roles and routines. In Jungian thought, this is individuation, the slow, painful, sacred process of becoming your full self. And sometimes that process begins with a whisper from the dream world. Here's the twist. The dead may appear. Not because they're lost, but because you are. They show up in your dreams when a part of your soul is ready to return to you. Their visit is a mirror, a message, a moment of reconnection. And maybe they come back not to say goodbye, but to say, you're ready now. So when the dead appear in your dreams, ask yourself, what have I been avoiding in my waking life? What truth is rising when I'm finally ready to feel? What part of me wants to be reborn? Because maybe the dead don't haunt our dreams. Maybe they hold the keys to waking up. If the soul speaks in symbols, then who better to deliver its message than the ones we've loved and lost? We spend our waking lives running from death, yet in dreams it finds us gently, not to frighten, but to speak. Maybe the dead don't return because they're lost. Maybe they return because you've lost something, a memory, a truth, a piece of yourself buried beneath survival. Carl Jung believed the unconscious knows what the conscious mind forgets, and perhaps those who've passed are the perfect messengers for what must now return. So if the soul sends symbols and the dead are among them, then the question is no longer, was it just a dream? But something far deeper. What if the dream is more real than anything you've ever woken up to? If this journey into the depths of the human psyche stirred something within you, don't let it end here. Subscribe to Carl Jung Mysteries and tap the notification bell so you never miss a revelation. Every week we uncover more hidden truths about your mind, your soul, and the strange world you live in. This isn't just a channel, it's an awakening. And you're part of it now.